cover this fundamental rights, fundamental duties, DPSP, all in this 1 hour means that is the point. See, that is the point of the class. That is how you should do. That is how people should do for this examination. Instead of that, make you sit and I make you run marathon for 40 hours, 60 hours. When will you read? When will you go and read and write this examination? That is where the problem comes. And if you ask me, see, again, you will have a doubt. How is it possible to cover fundamental rights, fundamental duties and the DPSP and historical underpinnings of constitution all in one particular class? I will upload one demo class. Very soon, I will upload this one demo class, which I have I have taken that class, and that is why I am telling you that this is possible. I will upload this class. You can look at partially, not the full class, maybe half an hour I will upload. You can look at how we are covering. That is how we are looking at this nuanced approach. Whether, it may be constitution or it may be economics also. So economics also, if I can, any one class in which I will make you understand this, how it is done. Third point, see. Come to this point. Now this is static portion. Now this is from economic survey. Please note it down. All the things that I am going to say in economic survey: consumer price index, wholesale price index. These two things you have to very clearly understand. This is from economic survey. In this, understand all these things. See, WPI. Then there is consumer price index, and this is what is called as headline inflation. And you know what? UPSC in economics will do this. In economics, they have this key terms. They will say some key terms. They will say some key terms, and they will ask you to say which is related to this key term, or why this term has been in use. Like this, they will ask in economics. So in economics, we'll look at this, which is headline inflation. They will ask like that, which is headline inflation. This one, and then this industrial worker and agricultural laborer, rural laborer. So all this definition, look at this point. So it is defined here. So if you are able to see this, it's in book also. Do not worry. This is in book also. But from economic survey, what and all is important is that you have to know each thing and which office releases that. If you think about it, the Labor Bureau, look at this. I will ask you to look at what WPI and Consumer Price Index, which organization releases. But I will say that Labor Bureau releases the things for the following. Look at this following. For industrial worker, 3 things: industrial worker, agricultural labor, rural laborers. For all these things, Labor Bureau is releasing. For WPI, who is releasing? For CPI, who is releasing? Now you check it and you make a table. Now itself make a table. Why? Because UPSC does this. UPSC asks questions like this. Look at this point. Now tell me the answer for this question. So answer for this question. Consumer price index of industrial workers. So okay. So this is how you should read. This is how. So inflation definition. You think about inflation in a context-based understanding. Okay. So and then in here you should understand which organization. Next comes this WPI. So index of wholesale price index. In wholesale price index, which organization releases? So look at this down. If you are able to look at this carefully, this is from economic survey. So Office of Economic Advisor. So look at this. The source for WPI is Office of Economic Advisor. What is the base year? So note this down. Base year of each thing. Make a table. Okay, make a table. It is in book. Okay, it is in book. But I want you to from economic survey, what and all you have to derive. Last class I told you. WPI base year is 2011-12. Okay. Now look at this point. The source for this is See, this is from economic survey. So, I keep saying, whatever is there, that is the source. So, source for this, do not see. I have seen people, for example, they WPA, and they type UPSC in Google. And there you will go into one particular site and you'll start seeing. See, instead of that, have standard sites or standard books. So from economic survey, you can get all these things. In book, it is there. So this too is very important. And the next is very important. In WPA, what are the constituents? So there is an index. What that means is that, see, for inflation, I said 100 rupees becomes 120, okay. But what in this wholesale price index or consumer price index they do is that they have a group of articles, or 100 articles they will have, and they will check the price of those articles. So I said for one article, but in the index and all, they will have a group of articles and they will check the price movement over a period of time. And when you see that, you will see the inflation as a whole. So, and what and all product. So I said 100 products. What and all product is in each index is what differs. And that is what you should see. And for example, in wholesale price index, you should look at this very carefully. Manufacturing product 65%. This is where the question, I will show you the question. If there is a manufacturing index or manufacturing product in wholesale price index, mark this point or not. Just a moment. The zoom if it is a problematic now, please do tell me. I will zoom it properly. So look at this very carefully. So the components in wholesale price index. This is 65%. Then in that primary articles 20%. But next thing what you should know is that in this 100% or this 100 in this index, food index is 25%. See, I have a group of products for marking this wholesale price index. In that, manufacturing products are 65% or 65. Food in that is 25, and non-food manufactured products it is called as core. In the 100, it is 55. These things you should have it in a very, 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 very simplistic fashion. You should understand all these things. In wholesale price index, what are the components? Major component is manufactured products. And if you think about it, food in this whole index, what does food constitute? Not 25%. And a non-food manufactured product, separate thing, it is 55%. Why? I will show you now. Why? Because you have to look at all these things, because UPSC concentrates on these things only. Next is this consumer price index. So like that, wholesale price index. So look at this. There is wholesale price index. In consumer price index, what is the component? Note it down. See, I told you first itself or separate what is the WPA, what is CPA. In that, under that, please note it down. In WPA, what and all is coming means, see here, food and beverages. So look at this point. Food and beverages. It is what? 45%. Now, this is CPI, correct? This is consumer price index, also called as headline inflation, correct? Headline inflation or retail inflation. In that, it is 45. Now, look at this. Here, it is not 45. Here, it is what? 25. Wholesale price index, manufacturing product is what is high. Food index is low. But here, look at this. Now, here, look at this. Consumer price index is the food and beverages component is high. This is where the question will arise. For example, see, look at the question now. So, okay. So, no. This also please note it down. Consumer price index. Now, this is the index of consumer price index. Look at the base here. The base year for WPA what? The base year for CPI what? You should be very, very careful. Okay. Next, So source for consumer price index. Look at this. NSO, National Statistical Organization. Next point that you have to note is that in consumer price, as I said, in wholesale price index, food component is 25%. But see here, consumer food price or food component, look at this point. Food component is nearly high here. The point what you should understand, which has higher food component, which has higher fuel component next I will come. But now you should be very clear. CPI food component is higher, WPI food component is lower. What is the source of WPI? What is the source of CPI? What is the year of CPI? What is the source of year of WPI? Please look at this. Now look at this point. So in what CPI is called, see CPI, what is CPI called? It is called as the retail inflation, consumer price index. Consumer price index is called as the retail. WPI is wholesale, simple. It is CPI, we measure the retail thing, that is what we get. Wholesale index, we measure the output of the whole thing. So this is what is called as the retail inflation. And in that retail inflation, in that retail inflation, there is something called as retail core inflation. Core inflation, the whole inflation index is there. You minus the food component and the fuel and light. If you think about it, there is let us assume that is 100 products are there, and in that 100 products, food component is there, fuel component is there, everything. But what is core inflation? Core inflation definition, what they are saying that they are excluding the transitory component, or transitory means this food and fuel. Food and fuel are transitory, that is, they can vary in a very fast fashion. Okay, tomorrow if food does not come, the inflation will increase like anything. So what they are doing here is that they want a core inflation, which is not wavering because of food and fuel. So one full component is there, that is the consumer price index. But in that retail core inflation is there, where you have to minus food and fuel. This definition, please look at it. Definition, why I said all this is that. See, look at this point. This graph you should know. This is from economic survey. But I kept saying V-shaped recovery. Remember V-shaped recovery? Now look at this V-shaped recovery of crude oil prices. So this is the crude oil prices. Look at this V-shaped recovery. This is what UPSC asked. Do you agree? There is a V-shaped recovery. And in this, you should look at all these things. This is Indian basket. What is this Brent crude? There are so many indexes. In Texas, there is one index. What is this Brent crude? This is a question, prelims question. These are all prelims questions. These are all index of these, what is that? These crude oils. So in this and all comes in newspaper every day. Where they buy all this crude oil, that is called as this index, this Brent crude index and the Texas index. West Texas, this is the point. West Texas Intermediate. This was the question. What is West Texas Intermediate? So this is where. So in that only you will see all these price varying and things like that. So reading newspaper, always please see, and I have seen people suggesting that now prelims has come, stop reading. See, it's an absurd thing. Reading 1 hour newspaper, 1 hour, what are we going to lose and read every day. Okay, you don't have to take notes and all, but reading continuously paper faster, you should have this habit of reading. You should look at all these things. This and all is question. And next, look at this. Now, for example, now in this economic survey, what they are saying is that they are saying this wholesale, there is a divergence. They are saying, see, both are measuring inflation, Nana. Both are measuring inflation. What now is happening is that the WPI, if you think about it, the wholesale price, what they are saying, the wholesale price index in the year 2019 and 2000 or early 2019, the wholesale price index was lower than they are saying. Consumer price index was higher. But now what has happened? Now what has happened after COVID is that wholesale price index is increasing above retail inflation. See, both are inflation. This is how UPSC will concentrate on this divergence. This is in economic survey. Both are, UPSC may say that UPSC will say always wholesale price index and consumer price index will be the same. They will go below together. But Anna, look at this. Economic survey say there is a divergence. There is a divergence. How they are saying is that, I think I got that graph. Wholesale price index, see, simpla paranga, wholesale price index, it was lower than consumer price index or the retail inflation earlier. But post-COVID, what has happened is that WPI is increasing, CPI is not increasing to that point. So what you should have as a conclusion is that you should have derived this fact that they both can diverge. They will not always be together. That is the one single point. If you remember, that is enough. Next point you should. So now come to this point. Next to come to this point. So this is what in economic survey they say. Next definition, there is key terms they have defined. So look at this point. What is consumer price index? I have said consumer price index, WPI, wholesale price index. In consumer price index, it is called as the retail inflation because it is the retail thing. What we buy, we make an assessment out of that. Wholesale is about the whole thing. And that is why it is called as retail inflation. In retail inflation, there is something called as core inflation. What is that core inflation? In retail inflation, you minus the whole thing by food and beverages and fuel. This is what is called as the core inflation. Why it is called as the core inflation is that because they want to measure things which are not transitory. That is, it does not change immediately. Food and fuel, if you think about it, yesterday there was a problem in Ukraine and Russia, means the fuel cost will increase today. Yesterday there was a crash, let us assume there was a crash somewhere means, or food crash, the truckload crashed means today market it will increase. But core inflation they are talking about, but you cannot see today if it is increasing means you cannot change your policy every day. That is why you need a core inflation. That only the government will use for making its policy. But the point is that in this there is they have defined, or this economic survey they have defined one more thing, refined core inflation. One is core inflation. Economic survey one more term they have defined, which is called as a refined core inflation. What is this refined core inflation? I will tell you this. See, consumer price index. In that consumer price index, if you think about it, consumer price index is called as retail inflation. Correct? This retail inflation, you minus fuel and food. That will give you core inflation. But what happens is that consumer price index, there is a thing called as miscellaneous. If you had noted down, look at this thing about the finger. In consumer price index, I am minusing food and beverages and fuel for making a core inflation. But there is a component called as miscellaneous. Yeah. What is this? This miscellaneous component contains petrol and diesel. Petrol and diesel that we use. Market. That is in the petrol and diesel that we use for driving every day, right? We use it for that is in this fuel and light for other purposes. See, ரொம்ப technical, don't think, but the point why I wanted to make you understand all these things is that it is in economic survey. Core inflation. Now you get this point. Food and beverages minus this fuel gives you retail inflation, the core inflation. But what happens here is that there is a component called as miscellaneous. This miscellaneous has a petrol and diesel that we use. So petrol and diesel that we use every day, if for example it will go tomorrow same way, it is contributing to the increase in inflation. This is saying, this economic survey is saying. So what they are doing is that, they are doing, so look at this, CPI is there, which is called as retail inflation. So you minus the food and the fuel and you get the core inflation. And what you do, you minus the petrol and diesel. And I don't know, in fuel and there is a component. So the point is that fuel and then a component, petrol and diesel can be used for some other purposes. So let us assume fertilizer. That product will be there. Yeah? The petrol and diesel that we use for so in under miscellaneous there is something called as transport. So so this is just the calculation. So don't worry. But this definition understand petroleum products, that is the point. So many products you can have, right? Fuel and diesel, many products that you are measuring there. But here you are measuring the petrol and diesel we use. And when you minus that, then you will get this something called as refined core inflation. Is the point. See, so it is constructed by excluding the main fuel, petrol for vehicle, diesel for vehicle, lubricants, other fuel for vehicles, in addition to food and beverages. See, this is the point. So key terms, why I am stressing on this is that UPSC will like all these key terms. Retail, so this is a key term. Now look at the key term. What is this? So here, code movement. So in this key terms and all, look at these key terms. What is same? Okay, WPI, CPI. Okay. In this, what is headline inflation? The key term they will concentrate. What is headline inflation in this? Next, what is retail inflation in this? Both level, what is retail inflation? Next, what is core inflation? What is, for example, refined core inflation? So all this that we discussed, what is the core inflation, refined core inflation, they will not ask. What is it related to? They will ask. It is related to consumer price index. Yeah, what is it? Simple as they will ask for your understanding, because economic survey, when something is there, you make an effort to understand it. Otherwise, see, the point is that that is the thing. Instead of reading so many materials, we can read what is in standards. Whether it is going to come or not, that we should not care about that. Rather, we should think about finishing our syllabus and doing our job. And now in economic survey, they have given this here. See, and from this, what you have to conclude from the above discussion, CPI, CPI and WPI need not always be the same. Yeah, both are inflation, but I have showed you that there is a divergence. Okay, why there is a divergence? UPSC will simply say this only. They will say both will go up and go down together. No, there will be a divergence. Why there is a divergence? There are multiple reasons. Okay, multiple reasons. One reason is, look at this point. There are one point. In this, you should also know this key term, another key term. What is base effect? This key term, note it down. What is base effect? Okay, what is base effect? It is very simple. So let us assume there is a product which is 100, okay, rupees 100. What happens because of COVID? No one there to buy, so it becomes 50. Okay, or let us assume that the GDP, because this word they asked in relation to GDP now. So our GDP is 100. Our GDP is 100. Because of COVID, GDP reduced 50 actually. Now what happens is that now and this is also CSAT. CSAT you can check it for percentage increase. CSAT this is also will come. So in now what happens is now COVID has gotten over. Now if our GDP comes back to 75, you may see that there is an increase. Okay, wow. Or increase ஆயிருக்குல. So if you think about it, it was 100 in 2019. Then because of COVID 50 it came. Now there is an increase. It comes to 75. What we will say is that GDP is growing, but the point is that it is because of the base effect. The base is low. Where you compare, it is low. That is what is called as base effect. This is the question. Key term note padikonga. So many key terms I said. In that one of the key term note down this. Next to come to this point, consumer price index. So see, this is the point. WPI, CPI, what is the difference now? CPI reflects the buying behavior of consumers. So in that, what group of components you will have means you will have components which the consumer buys. What in WPI? So okay, so CPI, this is the pointer. So consumption pattern. So first point is this. CPI reflects the consumption pattern, and so they are thinking about household consumer expenditure survey. But just to remember, CPI what we are buying, we will take the assessment and survey of those things and make an assessment of inflation. But WPI but what is WPI? First point is CPI na consumer, what I am buying. I will buy a shampoo, okay? I will buy a soap, I will buy a toothbrush. I will make an assessment of all those things and make CPI. But WPI is a bigger thing. See, look at this point. WPI things are the items in the basket. They think about the value that is a traded things. Okay, components which are traded across the world, they will think. Or wholesale, they will think. Or shampoo, maybe, see, that is the point. They will think about, let us assume, aluminium, copper. What I am saying is that, see, aluminium, copper, will you go into the shop and say, give me some copper? No. You will say, you give some utensil, that you will do. But you will not say, give me some copper. But if you go into the world, aluminium, copper will be traded. Okay, aluminium, copper, everything will be traded. Something has to look into all those things also. WPI does that. Adanaladan WPI, if you think about it, manufacturing, how much? Manufacturing, how much component? WPI manufacturing component. What is the component? Anyone? Remember? 65. That is the point. Why? Because they are thinking about the whole thing. They are thinking about, see, look at this point. They are thinking about the net traded value. And when you do that, this and all happens. Next point. So first point is this. Second point, note it down. In economic survey, beautifully put together. This is the paragraph. The question. This is the question. In economic survey, WPI, so if you are able to see, WPI, food and beverages has the highest weight. This is the question. Sorry. CPI, food and beverages is high, 45%, 45.9. Your number just chumma nyavachukoma, 45. WPI, see, look at this point. Manufacturing group is the highest, 65. So which is having which component? It's simple. Next, but fuel group. This is food. But the fuel group which is higher, which has higher number. For food who, for fuel who, for fuel look at this. WPA is high, CPA is less. Yeah. Why? Because you think about it again, WPA talks about the whole net traded things, wholesale things, and hence you will have this. Next to one more thing. See here, services are not included in WPA. Services means giving education. See this health, recreation, goods. Why services like this, health, education, and all are not in this WPA? Na? As a consumer, what you do, I am not going to reflect here. I am going to reflect the whole thing which happens in the whole world and India. So I don't care about, not care. So I will not think about education. So if how much coaching center is increasing, how much tuition, no. I will think about that when I come to the consumer perspective. Which is the consumer perspective here? This, and then now see, look at this point. So retail food inflation. So this is the point. So when you think about it, when food inflation increases, or if there is an increase in the supply chain disruption and food increases, CPI will increase because CPI has higher. So UPSC will not say which has higher food component, which has not like that. Earlier they used to ask, but now they may say there is a disruption in food supply chain and food component is increasing at a high rate. So which of the following is true? As a result of supply chain disruption, WPI will increase. But if you think about it, WPI will not increase, but the CPI will increase more because it has the higher food component. We have to know which are the component, because UPSC will give you statements like this and you should be able to understand the statement. You should be able to understand the statements. Now come to this point. So it is 24%. Food component in WPA is 24%. Now look at this question. Okay. But same thing. The point is that WPA assigns a heavier weight to manufactured products, and this is the point. See here, it gives higher weightage to manufactured products and fuel group, but CPA gives higher index or higher things to food. Okay. So now look at this point. Okay, see, but divergence, look at this figure. There is that is what I said. There is a divergence. The lower graph, this is the WPA. Okay, this is WPA. See, it is going low, and but now it is here. CPA is here. This divergence, you should know. They may not always overlap. They are both consumer price index and things. Both are for inflation, but they will not always overlap. But now you answer this question. Is this true? Weightage of answer this. Answer is very good. That is the point. So, see, our objective is to clear or get this 100 question from this 50 question. So, the A is the answer, correct. Here, you should now look at RBI. Now go look at RBI Monetary Policy Committee. Your Monetary Policy Committee is there. Monetary Policy Committee. UPSC has, so I think I have, I could not get that question, but UPSC has asked this question. Monetary Policy Committee, how many members are there? It's there in RBI. Okay, how many members are there? Who heads it? And whether they have adopted CPA or WPA. Exactly, 6 is the answer. Okay, 3 plus 3. Who heads it? Who heads it? Okay, this is the point. I want you to look at all these things in this way now. What the Monetary Policy Committee will do is that they will take in the account why they are taking into account CPA and not WPA. Is the point. So now why we discussed all this thing is that your monetary policy will be assigned or will be aligned with the help of CPA, not WPA. Because at the end of the day, consumer, what happens in India and the consumer is very, very important. So you should align your policy and directions towards that, tackling that. Now next, so all this is in economic survey.